Hey, welcome to another edition of AGI, Advance, Grow, and Innovate with AI. I am thrilled today to be here with someone that I met through LinkedIn. You know, it is true. We do start to grow outside of that digital community and become friends in the exterior as
Yeah.
well. But G Coffee is he runs the Brand Sensei. He's a marketing guy. Before I even let you introduce yourself, because I have such a martial arts background as a kid, are you in martial arts? Is that where the sensei comes from, or was it just a kid?
No, no. I actually, I'm not. But I stole that, just kind of like the idea of like really focused and really tactical and strategic. So yeah.
I
No
love
martial
it.
arts.
No, it's good. I mean, people could take it. Some people would take it like the whole focus, ready to hit the nail in, like Mr. Miyagi. Other people would be like, "You're just a marketing ass kicker." So, like, sensei works for that too, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Why don't you tell everybody kind of who you really who you are, man?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Jason. Yes, G Kofi Annan here, just Kofi. Everyone calls me Kofi. I'm a founder of a company called the Brand Sensei, and essentially we're a agency that really focuses on the intersection of using AI and digital technology and leveraging that for small to medium sized businesses and helping them really understand how things are evolving and how they can leverage all the different technologies and the marketing practices that I've learned over the years to really grow faster, be more effective with what they're doing, particularly since they have such fewer time, money, and resources. So, like, how can we use technology and marketing best practices to really elevate and grow that business? So that's where we focus on, and that's where the sensei comes in because we're really strategic and specific about just really leveraging what works and getting rid of all the fluff and all the hype.
Man, I so many thoughts here. You and I have a lot in common, right? So, Phoenix Solutions Group that I work for in the Midwest, in Lafayette, Indiana, we're trying to help small to medium sized businesses leverage AI as well. I probably don't have as heavy of a marketing background as you do, but I do have a marketing background. And one of the things I find with AI is while it does upskill you on things that you may not have been very good at, like I'm not very good at math, and it really helps in data analytics and things like that I don't kind of tend toward. But your superpower is really in those spaces where you already had domain expertise. And I always my first foot forward is I can show you how to use this in marketing to save a ton of time.
Yeah, and no, I totally agree on that part too, and I think that's a missing link as AI takes hold more and more people start either trying to figure out or try to adapt it and stuff like that. It does tend to be all consuming, and what you hit a nail on the head as far as like, okay, what's your superpower? Where are you focused? What are you good at? AI will make that AI will amplify that or enhance that, but then also fill in that gap. But I think that balance which you and I really align on is like, like really like what are you bringing to the table, your company, you as an individual, your company, your team, and then how can AI be used to either supplement what's missing and or amplify that. And yeah, no, I think there's a lot of work to be done in that space.
Well, and for me, it's also like, what do I like to do? I mean, I have a weekly newsletter. I like to keep a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn. I publish it in English and Spanish. There are times when I spend all Sunday writing every article for that myself, right? But I don't want that to monopolize. I don't want to have to do that every Sunday. So
Yeah.
I have created a custom GPT with my tone, voice, and style that can write the whole
Nice.
thing for me if I wanted to, because I don't have time that week, and it's still not bad at all.
Yeah, no, and those are the things that like, yeah, there are a few different. I haven't gone as far as building custom GPTs there, so I definitely have to take your lead on that. But yeah, just kind of helping save time. And I think that's kind of with AI, especially, that's usually a draw for across the board, regardless of what the size of the company is, or the role, or the individual, or even people in their daily life. The whole idea is like, okay, how can you save time and energy, and do more with less? But again, I think that's kind of where experts like you and I come in, where it could easily take over what you're doing or what you're trying to do. And if you're not, you talked about, customize it for your tone of voice. Most people, I'm realizing, when you get outside of the ecosystem of talking about AI, like really being in depth, when you start talking to regular people that work at Best Buy and stuff like that, you realize that, wow, a lot of people don't even understand that that's possible.
Yeah, they think out of the box AI is what AI is, and so we can get into all that, and I would love to get into all that. First, I want to get into. So you're located, you're in the Midwest as well, are you not?
Well, I'm in Dallas, North
Oh, you're in
Dallas
Dallas.
area. Yeah, Dallas, Texas. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what I was
So,
thinking. I grew up in El Paso, man.
oh, really? Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah,
It's
we
not nice,
moved.
but yeah, Texas is in general. El Paso, not really.
Yeah, we've only lived here. I moved, so we've moved quite a lot, and that actually factors into a lot of my expertise as far as like helping people understanding where people are coming from and kind of that background. But like as an individual in my family, we've moved quite a lot. We're in Texas now. We're in Dallas area now. We lived in San Francisco Bay Area up until about 3 years. So we've been in Texas about 3 years, and then before that, we were in the New Jersey area. So, and then before that, I was born outside of the country. So, I think that helps me. I try to bring that perspective into my work as well, as far as like the different dynamics of kind of big city culture, newer city. Dallas is still a kind of newer, growing city, fast growing, but again, still a lot of rural areas as you move around Texas. So just kind of understanding those different dynamics, both on the business side, but then on the customer side as well. Like as people are serving a lot more of more rural and remote customers and patients.
Wow. So grew up in El Paso until I was 14. My family's from Indiana, so
Okay.
I've traveled all around. I lived in LA, Alaska, a million places, but Texas wise, right? So Austin, keep Austin
Yep.
weird. I'm pretty conservative, but I love Austin. It's a lot of fun, right?
A lot of different things going on.
San Francisco, so old Texas. I finally got to Dallas not all that long ago, and I was surprised at how small town of a big city it feels like.
Yes, it is. And I've been told that, again, we've only been here 3 years, and prior to that, I think I'd come here for maybe one day. I was when I was working with the advertising agencies. We came down for a pitch, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, to that point, I've been told that even as a lot of the developments that I even see now, as far as large highways and lots of growth, as far as businesses and stuff like that, most of that is within the past 5 years. So yes, it still does have that small town vibe to it, even though the landscape itself is becoming more and more big city with lots and lots of headquarters here for larger major organizations. Yeah.
Have you been to Rodeo Goat?
Yes, I have.
Wow.
I have. That's
Queso and burgers, man. It is good.
oh man, yeah, Rodeo Go. That's one of the first places, and if we're talking about food, that's one of the main reasons I moved down here, because we are big foodies in my house. And again, growing up in New York, New Jersey area, there's like all kinds of food, literally everywhere. San Francisco disappointed me because there was not that much as far as variety of food. But yeah, when we were thinking about moving out of the West Coast, we didn't want to go back to the East Coast, and we're looking at different areas. And that was one of my criteria. Where can you get all the food, like this, like native food for authentically for where it is, but then also other different kinds of food. And yet Rodeo Goat, I just had some really good Dallas barbecue. Surprisingly, for the first time, I've had some kind of ones. Went to Hutchins Barbecue, which is one of the major ones that a lot of people come to. So we actually went to that yesterday, and that was really, really, really good.
Have you been to the Mexican?
What, Mexican restaurants in general, or
It's called
just a
the
particular
Mexican.
place?
It's like
Oh no,
prices, but Mexican food. So I had like a Wagyu enchiladas when I was there.
Oh no, I
Like
have not
75
heard
bucks a
that
plate.
one.
So it isn't cheap, but it is damn good.
I know, yeah. I would say that surprisingly, and I don't know, because maybe it's because I don't eat red meat. Maybe that's why I haven't been able to find as much like really good barbecue stuff, because I don't just go anywhere. But I have found a lot of really good. I haven't been to the Mexican, but I've been to a lot of really good Mexican restaurants, more so than I have with barbecue. And Texas is known for both, right? Barbecue and then Mexican food is like it comes with the territory. I don't know what's Indiana. What kind of food like culture do you guys have? Just American.
Like fried breaded tenderloins. Everyone puts
Okay.
ranch on everything here.
Oh, really? Oh, my kind of place. I need to be over there. I
Oh,
love ranch.
it drives me crazy. Every salad bar I go to when I go to a convention, you have ranch, and that's your choice. And I'm like, really? Come on, Hoosiers.
Let's diversify the
I know some
sauces.
terrible jokes around ranch dressing that I won't tell on this podcast. We try to be fairly PG, but I will say when I was in San Francisco not long ago. First off, it was awesome to ride a Waymo. That your first experience with a Waymo is pretty cool.
Oh, did you? Oh, you got that. You got to do that. Yeah, I
Oh
didn't.
yeah.
I missed it. Yeah.
I did it twice, and
Oh, wow.
I even took a video and sent it to my wife because she's from Indiana and she didn't even believe it was true. She's like, I'll believe it when I see it, and so
Yeah.
we had to say she admitted she
Be like, it's happening already.
Yes, yeah. So I have heard certain people say that their definition of AGI will be when a Waymo can navigate New York City.
Wow.
That it would be difficult for a driverless car. I've driven in New York City once, and
Yeah.
it was only
Yeah.
once.
Well,
Food wise, go ahead.
I think what they might end up doing in New York, if or when it comes, is that they've actually started restricting the amount of traffic in Manhattan specifically. So that might I don't know if that's strategic for them, but they're restricting the amount of people driving into Manhattan, New York City itself. So you can extrapolate that, and then when there are less people driving in, it might be less chaotic to drive, and then now you could enter the driverless cars. I don't know,
I can see New York. I mean, there are cities in China that are planning full underground. So, like, everything's automated and it's all underground, and then everything above ground becomes green spaces. I could see New York being a progressive city that moves in that kind of direction, especially with the intricate subway system that they already have. But let's talk about small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits' lack of adoption of AI. Do you see in Dallas, like here, it's like pulling teeth to try to get them to even consider adopting AI below enterprise. Are you still seeing that in Dallas, or
yeah, and that's actually refreshing for me, right? Because in New York and San Francisco, right, you tend to, like, even the smaller businesses, because again, just the nature of those areas, smaller businesses are a lot more aware and willing to try and kind of like at a little bit more, I guess you could say, cutting edge. But but yeah, since I would say moving here, it has become a reality check as far as what is actually the norm versus the New York and San Francisco context, right? New York and San Francisco are outliers in that sense. And even, like you say, even if you go to places like Hong Kong or some of these bigger metropolitan cities, but like in Dallas, as much as they again they're progressing really quickly, you do find with a lot of businesses that they've heard of a lot of stuff. They know what exists. I mean, definitely not the driverless cars. Like that's gonna be blowing in my mind. But the adoption is very calculated. Let's just say, right? And so it's been helpful for me to kind of dial back the pace of expectation about what people already understand about technology, how the kind of technology that exists, the kind of technology that's available to them, and then what is even possible for them to use. So it's been refreshing, and the more I get into non-huge, technology forward communities, I understand that a lot more, and then I'm able to now kind of really kind of help solve that problem, because it is a huge gap. That, but yeah, it's calculated, if at all.
You have a way better attitude about this than I do. I've gone from like Mr. Miyagi wanting to show Daniel how to trim the tree to like
Yeah.
full on the dude in the Cobra Kai. Like AI does exist in this business ecosystem, doesn't it? Yes, Sensei. You better adopt this, or you're going to be out of business in 5 years, aren't you? Yes,
Yeah.
Sensei. Like I'm almost fearful that it so empowers startups that we're going to have a flood of startups that are going to disrupt every business, that small to medium sized business that
Yes.
didn't try it, and it's going to be more disruptive, the slow adoption, than with any other technology has was before.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of, I like a challenge, right? So for me, that's the exciting part about it, in the sense that um, that is one possibility, but then, as I work with more and more companies that are curious, at least, right? Like, they're like, I don't know what that is, so they're not hesitant. I mean, we could talk about healthcare as an industry, and that's a whole other thing. But let's just talk about kind of more broadly small and medium-sized businesses. They are curious. They don't, but they're hesitant. So that's where for me, what's worked is having a specific framework and a way of working helps to at least start moving in that direction, right? And yeah, yeah, I guess I'm going the other way, because you haven't spent the time in Indiana, for instance. For you, it's kind of like, okay, let's move forward, and for me, I'm like, oh my god, some of the other stuff is too fast. So that's actually a perfect example of how individual experience also helps guide the kinds of recommendations and how we work with small to medium sized business, regardless of their maturity level. And there's a huge, I agree, they do, small to medium sized business have to move a lot faster, because the startups are coming really quickly to eat their lunch, and it's sometimes it's I feel bad, because I see it, like, we see it coming, right? Like, we see it coming, and sometimes you're having conversation. I was having a conversation recently with home healthcare agency. The husband and wife. They're she's a nurse. She comes from nursing. They've started a home healthcare business specifically for seniors, and just kind of watching them navigate business in general, and like offerings and all those kinds of things. I balance that with, well, what are some of the tools that are being released already that can make a lot of what they're finding exciting about the kind of product that they're offering, or services that they're offering. And I'm like, in another 2 years, that's not really going to be a thing, if that long. So it is scary, but I think it's all in the kinds of conversations we have and who we work with, and how we guide them out of that void of everything's going to be awesome for the next 10 years, and I'm going to be able to have the time to figure it out. It's like, maybe not.
Well, let me start with thank you, because I have a tendency to see the world the way I want it to be. And
Hmm.
like my daughter graduated from Purdue with a PharmD and moved to San Diego a year ago, 2 years ago.
Nice.
And I was like, no way in hell when my wife wanted to move out. I'm not living in California again. It's too blue. It's too
Yeah.
expensive. And now I'm like, hey, I want to move to San Francisco tomorrow because I'm so into this
You're
AI
like,
stuff.
I know.
That's where it's happening, right? So, yes, I
You
do
want to see robots
kind of
already?
expect my fellow Hoosiers to
Hmm.
move forward at the same speed. But the things that you talked about, the two fears that I had, or the two disruptors that I feel there, like one of them is product is difficult to design now, right? My partner and I have thought, well, do we want to create some software or some wrappers out of this AI? And it's like, if you can't build that shit and have it to market in 6 months, then by the time you do get it to market, somebody will have probably done something better, or the models will have advanced, and it won't be a good product anyway. So
Hmm.
that's one challenge. But the other challenge, when you're talking about somebody starting a small business, is if you know how to navigate N8N or
Hmm.
any of these agentic studios, like oh my gosh, I'm spacing on the one that
Uh,
I use all the
uh, well,
time, but
yeah.
MindStudio.
Yeah, MindStudio.
If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
if you know how to navigate those, like you can the back end of your business, the marketing, the bookkeeping, all that, like you can almost automate a huge portion of that and really spend the time with clients, with customers, doing that stuff
Hmm.
that only humans can do. And so I do think that some of these kids that are coming out of college that are like, oh well, nobody's hiring new people. Okay, well, why don't you learn how to use some AI tools and just do your own thing? That's going to catch on real fast.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I just saw, I don't know if you saw this, Google, was it last week or the week before, just put, I think, like maybe a $1 billion fund, I guess, or scholarship or something like that to educate students, the freshmen, sophomores. And I think like 500, I think it was like $1 billion for the program, and it was available to about maybe 500,000 students, just squarely on educating them on AI within the context of business, right? And so that's a huge opportunity. But you know, first of all, I'm in this space, so I hear about it. So I can imagine that most people I'm in Plano, which is fairly robust. I would say, let's say, going further out from where I am, Prosper or in Selena, which becomes again a little bit more rural, more residential. Like people from those areas, first of all, are not hearing about that, and they're not understanding that those opportunities are exist, let alone the disruption that's going to come out of those opportunities, right? You said as the younger kids get that kind of access that quickly, and they go through this. I don't know how long the program is. Like, let's just say it's a year or two, probably not, but like let's just say a year. When they come out of there, they're going to have the hands-on experience with the technology, but then they have the hands-on experience with technology, the energy of youth, right? Like just in your 20s, you're like anything's possible, right? And then also the opportunities as far as what are all the different kind of industries and businesses that can be disrupted. So they're gonna come and eat a lot of older businesses, or at least more calculated businesses lunch. And I know in Dallas here, there's a lot of family owned businesses that have been around for a long time, that's been doing lawn care or home care or
Mhm.
whatever. And those businesses unfortunately tend to move in that direction, right, where the older, whoever the older group of family members are, don't want to change. They have the younger ones who are like, so they have to kind of balance that. So it's just like, even that within family owned business, there's that dynamic, which again slows down the progress of that business as far as adapting to the way things are going to be more and more as far as the business climate.
Well, let's be real, G Coffee. I mean, Google just released last week a world model that's pretty damn good. It's there. The training of embodied AI or robotics is going to advance just as fast in the next few years as large language models inside a computer have. So some of those jobs, not only are you going to have kids that know how to run a business using AI tools real easily, but they're also going to have automated robots that can go out and mow all those lawns real fast, rather than when you and I were kids, like I was
Hmm.
mowing until I could afford my own mower.
Yeah.
If I had a good dad, my dad let us use ours. But the kids whose dads were trying to set them up to be entrepreneurs made them
Hmm.
take that money and invest it in a better mower and grow their
Hmm.
business and stuff. Those kids are going to be investing in robots now that are going to be going out and doing all this stuff for them. The education space, I think, is going to that entire landscape is going to change in the next 10 years. We're
Hmm.
actually launching a second podcast on Saturday, starting in September,
Oh,
just talking to educators about AI. Um, in some cases, I've been impressed with that. I'm on the community colleges applied AI curriculum committee here with like 50 different industry leaders from different industries, and I love what they're doing. I listen to K through 12 teachers in one of the
oh my
meetings
God.
talk about how much they don't want this technology that would fix all the things they've been complaining about for the last 10 years, and they're trying to say, well, I don't want it to point out which kid's not paying attention because that's going to reinforce stereotypes. And I'm like, no, it's
Hmm.
going to make you address that kid in a different way
Hmm.
and actually bring out the human in you. And
Hmm.
or no, we don't want Big Brother keeping our schools safe by watching over things. And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, what do you do at an airport? Like, you don't think that there's AI technology in an airport, making sure that nobody's pulling a bomb out of a backpack. So
Yeah.
why not have that in a school where I was a little turned off by how much pushback these K through 12
Yeah.
teachers had.
Yeah, I mean it's and it's good that you mentioned that because yeah, in my experience, a lot of more I would say industries that have been protected from technology over the years, right? So you talk about regulated industries. So you talk about health. You talking about alcohol. Like those regulated industries, or I guess standardized. Let's just say industries like education. I think in my experience, what has happened, especially I would say in the healthcare industry, what I've seen, and I've been in that space for 20 or more years, I always come in as the guy who understands technology and is helping move the product or the initiative forward, right? So I'm always kind of like the new guy, and like he understands that social media stuff. Ooh, that's gonna go away next week, like or mobile technology. Yeah, no, that's for the kids. So I've always been in that intersection, and what I've seen in health, especially, I think my sister's a teacher, so I kind of understand. And my brother has been in school, so even in education rather. So seeing education is that I think that the industries have been protected from the realities of how society has been moving from a technology perspective, and unfortunately the habits of the individuals who've been in those industries for a long time have erred on the side of, well, we don't have to change the way we do it because either regulation or whatever, like we're essentially protected, so that's for consumer industries. So health, for instance, has had that. I've met a number of people who you could tell them, like, there's in telehealth, for instance, you need to if you have a therapy that you want to that you want to launch, it's not just working with the hospital systems. You also have to look at the big hospital systems. You have to look at some of the rural hospital systems as well, and kind of like done it. And the general feel, and this broad generalization is that no, it's fine because we don't have to look at the rural areas because they have no choice anyway, right? They're eventually going to come. They're eventually going to come to our solution because there is no other solution, right? So, and because of that, they've been very slow to adapt and evolve and even reach out to different communities and develop new products and systems. And technology, especially AI, is appending all of that. So there are other choices in healthcare. There are a lot of choices in education, but I think the way how systematically how the individuals and the structures have been developed, that sense of change and that rapid change is where you get what you're saying, where no, I don't want big brother. No, that's sure, but
You better
you
get
still
rid of
have
your cell
to.
phone.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's like like you still are doing all these things,
Uh-huh.
and you should be cautious, but you should be cautious, but not hesitant, right? Like it's good to kind of understand holistically what the technology can and can't do and all those kinds of things. And let's have that conversation. Let's talk about how you're going to move forward. But it's not an excuse to say no. I'm not going to be involved in that because that ship has passed sailed a long time ago. So and they're being forced to change. And at the end of the day, human beings, individuals, we are not good at external change that we don't understand, right? So, and again, those industries, so like education, I think those are some of the huge opportunities I've seen even from the startup space, and maybe you're even seeing that as well. A lot of the startup folks forget about retail and consumer goods. Like those are, industries that are very competitive. But if you go in healthcare, all those boring industries, healthcare, education, some of the biggest startup opportunities they've really been taking those industries to task and really getting some headway there because the innovation hasn't existed in those spaces.
200% agree. I think healthcare, which I work in as well, and we'll have to get together on a different podcast because healthcare is so vast. when it comes to AI. Like you could go down the machine learning and and image reading. You can go with ambient listening devices and how they plug into EHRs. I mean, they just that entire ecosystem is going to be disrupted, and it is moving faster than I thought it would. I went to that conference out in San Francisco, was all about human AI integration in healthcare, and I was blown away by how many products are out on the market.
Mm-hmm.
One of the spaces that I'd really like to talk to you about, because you're better at selling this than I am, is the nonprofit space. I've worked in the nonprofit space, right? If you take, let's just take the Salvation Army. I always use them as an example. Sorry, Salvation Army, I love you. I worked for them for a couple of years, okay? In Indianapolis, Indiana, the development directors, which is your fundraising arm, right? In Indianapolis, that is a part of the company where they have 4 to 7 employees, one who oversees it, one who does big donors, little donors, social media, right? But in Lafayette, where I was as a development director, that's all you, just you.
Mm-hmm. The individual, yeah, yeah.
And I keep trying to tell these smaller ones, like, if you have good, well, pardon me, fine-tuned AI tools, like, you could take care of your newsletters. Not only could you take care of your newsletters and your social media posts, but you could actually cater your newsletters based on the people in your CRM's likes and wants, so that you may put out 4 to 6 different ones every month that are going to the donors who actually care about that. You could take a lot of that stuff off your hands, and then you could actually be doing more sitting down talking to someone who is a potential donor, or who going out and thanking your people who are supporting you, doing the stuff that only humans can do. And I continuously hear it's too fake. You can tell what it is. Like, we don't want to be disingenuous. Like that. So what do you say when you have a conversation like that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And nonprofit space is another one where, I mean, talk about the opportunity for AI and digital media, right? Like, huge opportunity. The barrier, again, that I've recognized is that, again, traditionally over the past 50, 100 years, right, those industries have pretty much had a way of working that has been shielded from most of how the I guess the dynamics of regular society and regular markets.
But
right?
before you finish that, let me say, you're not wrong, but they've also complained about wearing too many hats and not getting paid enough.
Exactly, but exactly, and that's the dynamic, right? And it's always funny because I get into these conversations. It's similar to you, where hey, I don't have enough. We don't have enough donor money. We have a short budget. We can't hire too much. But we want to reach more people ultimately, right? From a nonprofit space, you want to reach more people, whether it be for around housing, whatever your focus is for your nonprofit. We want to reach more people. We want to do more for more people. Great, perfect opportunity to now leverage these technologies to reach more people, to do more with less, to have a bigger impact. I think the big barrier becomes I guess complacency of general nonprofit, structure, right? Like there are ways things get done, and I think nonprofits context as well airs a lot more on the human side, because most nonprofits are about elevating or impacting individuals, the human condition. And I think as an industry, a lot of nonprofits prioritize the human, the one-to-one, the interaction and such. So it's this dynamic where you want to be hands-on, but then you realize that there's only so much you could do from the individual perspective, so you kind of want this scale. But because you don't understand how to scale that hands-on interaction, you're stuck, right? And exactly to your point, and going back to even what you said about your brand voice, right? Or how you're talking about it. Those are some of the topics that nonprofits don't hear about, right? When you're hearing about AI, you think of moving things faster and cranking out things, right? That's what's in the media, and so they don't want that. And they assume that that's all there is for AI, but they don't understand brand voice. They don't understand even just having a brand kit, like of your visuals, or even having I've worked with a lot of nonprofits who don't even have a random folder with all their logos in it, right? Like so it's kind of like
And I've started
so
to
it's like
rewrite those as like PDRs, almost like for AI as well. So you have the brand kit for humans, and then you have the brand kit that's all in Markdown for the AI, so that you can upload that to any Claude, any out of the box you're using, and say, hey, here's my brand standards. Now write a social media post, right? And so it changes drastically the output of what you're getting from one of these models if you're just giving it the context of what that brand is all about.
yeah, and that's why for us with my company, the Brand Sensei, we always focus on. So yes, the value of technology, that's great, right? We always start with, okay, the basics, right? What is your strategy? What are you trying to do? Who you're trying to do it with? Like, do you have the basics, right? Because we've seen that people get excited or hesitant about the technology based on what it could do, right? All the possibilities, but they rarely they kind of detach that from the having the basics, because again, the AI is only you're only going to get that reach and that impact for your if you're a nonprofit, for your constituents. You're only going to have that impact, that authenticity, if you already have a structure, that a way to harness that, something for it to harness, right? It's only it's only amplifying what you're already doing. So the conversations that we usually have is that, yes, the possibility of AI, and if we could educate people, we do workshops around what's possible, and what other people in the industry is doing, what's working, what's not working. But when it comes to working directly with a small business or a nonprofit or a medium-sized business, we always start with, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, we'll start with, okay, let's talk about where you actually are, right? And then let's build a roadmap for where you want to be. Something that's realistic, something that's not also going to overwhelm you as the leader in your, the founder, the owner, the visionary or whatever behind your organization. Something that aligns with where you're trying to go, but that also doesn't overwhelm your organization, from taking people away from what they're already doing and or forcing them to do something else, because nobody wants to do more work. But yeah, it always has to start from the basics. And sometimes we've worked with some organizations where if they want to leverage social media, right, to reach more people, and this is 2 years ago, for instance, and social media has been around for a long time, and we've had to tell them, well, that's not going to be possible, because you don't have a actual strategy. You don't have the people. You don't have the resources. Like, so let's start with where you are. And unfortunately, you're going to have to watch some other people move faster, but just be sure that as much as those other people are moving faster, if they don't have the right strategy, if they don't have the right resources, if they don't have the right foundation, they're going to move fast and they're going to crash just as quickly, right? So if you start with those foundations of brand voice, of having understanding your customer, understanding your wants and needs, and we have a whole framework that we work with called the Smarter Brand framework. So if you don't start
the design process, right?
You have to start with that. You have to start with that, and that sets you up for, regardless of which technology. It could be social media, it could be mobile, it could be AI or whatever. If you have those foundations, you're going to really be able to harness that technology and make it better. But the reverse is not true. You can't harness a technology without, if you try to use the technology without having those foundations, you're going to crash and burn. You're going to get frustrated, especially as a small business or a small organization. If you don't have the time, money, or resources, or the manpower, so you're going to jump in the deep end, and you're going to waste time and money and resources trying to figure out this technology, when really it's about starting with those foundations, and you're going to end up there anyway. So yeah, so we're very strategic about that, making sure that they're focused on the foundations that then can be fed into the AI or the systems that we help them build.
Well, that's such pragmatic advice. If you go back to 2023, McKinsey and all of the people who were kind of looking at AI adoption across enterprises, and McKinsey today is like not hiring new consultants because they've already
Yeah.
internalized AI. But in 2023, they were saying all these companies, like two-thirds of them, are spending millions of dollars to throw spaghetti against the wall when it comes to AI, just doing AI to do AI, and it's flopping in most of them. And I think it does. It comes down to that design process, right? Have
Hmm.
you identified the problems that you want to solve? Do you know who your end users are going to be? Have you designed it for the end user to include ensuring them that if they do learn how to use this technology, it's not going to replace them. It's going to
Hmm.
allow them to move into a higher position of human interaction. And they're going to be rewarded for embracing this technology. And then have you continued? One of the biggest lessons I ever learned when I first came back to the company I'm at as a chief strategy officer, most of the complaints that I heard amongst employees were about poor communication and not knowing what one hand was doing, the other hand, because we had
Hmm.
several locations in
Silos.
this community paramedicine company. I was like, well, Monday.com can fix that. And so we paid for Monday.com. I put together one tutorial video. I thought it was obvious that it would fix all their problems, and I didn't help any of them learn how to adopt it. And we pissed away $1,700 for a year at Monday.com and never got used, basically, right? Lesson learned. Like, you can't just give people a tool and explain to them theoretically how it's going to help them. You actually have to help them learn how to integrate that tool until they have that chat GPT moment of their own where they're like, wow, this is yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah, and it's if you're a technologist and you're that kind of technology forward, like like us, a lot of times that's the boring work, right? Like educating, like you want to, I have tons of stories just like you. Like I came in as the technology guy, like when I was at Ogilvy, coming as the technology guy, and I'm like, okay, this is years ago. So this we're talking about just kind of building robust websites, right,
Right.
for within health and wellness. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you could take all your print materials for sales specifically, right? You could take all the print materials that your sales reps are using, and you could digitize all of those, and they could create a website that it has all that they could download stuff, they could click on stuff, and like, oh my god, this is gonna rock, and we would see sometimes in those some of those early projects, or even like when we were trying to implement bring in iPads, right? Because you had a lot of sales reps that would walk around with brochures, paper
Yeah.
brochures, going to see doctors and such. And we're like, well, the company would get behind like, okay, well, it makes more sense resource wise to put stuff on an iPad and just give them an iPad and a tablet rather, and they'll go. So that made sense on paper from a technology perspective. And then time and time again, we would see that the reps wouldn't will
Hmm.
you give them the iPad, they will take the iPad and they'll also take their brochure, and then we're tracking, right? So we see the utilization was way down. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't they understand? So we went round and round and round, and as we started doing more one-on-ones and ride-alongs with some of the actual users, we realized that it's they understand the idea, but from an education perspective, they don't know how to use it. Like, where does that fit, right? So now we had this expensive, resource
Yep.
that we were like, no, you have to use this, and they were like, yeah, I don't even know what that is. Like, what's the user experience? Like, what's the UX rather? Where do I find this X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And yeah, so it's hard lessons that I learned in those kind of environments that helped me realize the value of the boring work of sitting with folks and almost like being a technology therapist, right? It's like, okay, how do you feel about this? Let's try small steps. Let's introduce you to a smaller version of this. Let's put a pilot program together. Let's see how it works. It doesn't disrupt, like kind of walking them through that adoption process, the education adoption process, which could definitely frustrate some folks if you don't have the personality for it. But it's the especially with AI, as fast as it's moving, it's that education and hand holding really component that's really missing um, in the market. You have a
Well,
lot of
when are they going
technologists
to
who know
wake
how
up
to
and
do a lot of
realize?
stuff.
When is the world going to wake up and realize that UI is built into AI? I don't need
Yeah.
somebody yes, I do have to do that, but I don't need somebody to do that with me because I will just go straight to Claude and screen share and say, treat me like I'm a high school freshman and walk
Yep.
me through this process, right? Or I
Yeah.
can interface with the actual. I can't tell you how many times people will be like, "Hey, I need this AI tool to do this," and I'm like, "Okay." I go straight to Perplexity, and I used
Hmm.
to like then tell them all the tools and look like I
Hmm.
knew even more about AI than I do, right? But
Right.
now I just share the Perplexity conversation
Yeah.
with them. I'm like, "Look, stop using Google.
Hmm.
I love Google, and they're going to dominate a lot of other spaces, but Google search's day is gone." But go into Perplexity and ask it questions if you want to know something, and it will walk you through the answers that it gives you. And if you don't trust it, you can click on a link and find out where it came from.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge missing part, right? It's like exposure therapy, right?
Uh-huh.
Like giving people a lot of people. At the end of the day, if you talk about even the most Chat GPT,
Right.
I've met quite a number of people. I thought at this point everybody's used Chat GPT, for instance. There's still a lot of people who have never opened it up.
You're
And
not wrong.
I'm not talking about people who like someone who mows your lawn. I'm talking about like people in offices, like people
Yeah.
who should have. So it's I love that what you're saying, because it's like, you have to take the context and give them that exposure therapy, right? You have to expose them to, because once they start using it, because technology is always, when you talk about technology, and again, this is a fault in my opinion of technologists, people where we talk about it at such a high and complex level that people kind of don't understand what we're talking about a lot of times, right? But I love what you're getting at, and I think that works really well. Where it's like, I could tell you what ChatGPT does, or what Perplexity does, or what an AI agent is. I could explain all that, but you have to start using it in a safe space, right? And then it's up to you as an individual in your specific use case to start saying, "Oh, I didn't realize you can just talk to Perplexity on my phone and get the same answers that I've been Googling forever." Or I could use one of my favorite apps, Gamma
Oh
app.
yeah.
I could
Oh
just
yeah.
literally take like the slightest thought of an idea and have it generate at least the basis of a slide deck for me if I'm going to present something to my boss. You know what I mean? Like those people don't make those associations because they think AI, especially, is for advanced people who are doing like really complex stuff. And it's like, no, there's like so much for it. This It's so much more accessible, that I would even say in the past, than social media was, than mobile technology was. It's AI, so so much more tech, and you could start at any level. And that's the boring work that a lot of us who are in it have to do to get people on board.
Here's a question for you. All right, well, a couple theories that I have. One, I think that Apple has missed the ship and is probably going to
Yep.
be a blockbuster of our time at some point in time, or at least like Boeing, like they're going to go through a period where they're nothing. But are people going to shift from Microsoft Office suites, where the UI has already sucked to begin with forever, and Copilot has really dragged its feet on advancement. It recently became a little bit better, but I think that they have a lot of problems getting full functional Chat GPT at OpenAI. Like there's a lot of battle dynamics between those two companies. Google has HIPAA compliant workspaces. I mean, the UI of Google is so much more user friendly. And if you look at how good Gemini 2.5 Pro has been, are you going to start seeing big businesses say, you know what, to hell with it? I'm leaving the Microsoft environment and going into the Google environment.
Yes, yes, and that is the actual battleground, that kind of way above our pay grade, right? Like,
Right.
that is the actual battleground for big tech, right? Or that's open right now. Who can create an AI powered resource or network or whatever, that for
Ecosystem.
ecosystem? Yeah, that's the even better word. Yes, ecosystem that is easy to use, powerful enough, but it adapts and is able to replace those other systems that any organization, big or small, so like Microsoft, you talk about the Microsoft ecosystem, for instance, right, is able to replace that, right? Or even Google Docs, right? Like the Google ecosystem in that context between Docs and Gmail and such. Who's able to be the new one? And I think that's the angle that Chat OpenAI is going.
Yeah, they are.
That's the angle that Facebook/Meta would like to go. Good luck with that. They're not going to be. I don't think they're going to be able to, because they've never been a business resource in that context.
Yeah.
Even if it's for small business. And I think that is the battleground. And what I do think, though, compared to the past, is that there's not going to be one winner. Meaning that I don't believe that there's going to be, like, essentially how Microsoft Office has been for the past however many years, right? Where small businesses are using Microsoft Office. Like, it's just a standard, right? It has been. I think in the near future, there are going to be ecosystems that are more curated to size of organization and industry, right?
I agree.
So yeah, I think I think that's where it's going to be. The Googles and the OpenAIs of the world are going to be everything to everybody and just kind of try to be they're going to go for that. But I think where what's really going to take hold is a lot of smaller organizations. Again, this is where smaller businesses, startups, small medium-sized business. I think this is the opportunity, right? Where they understand the industry or the use cases, right? And they're able to, with AI, build out a suite of tools or services or whatever that are really curated and speak specifically to, say, nonprofits or healthcare or gas stations or whatever that is, right? With all the other resources, based on their workflow. So like if they have to do presentations, if they have to do accounting, yada yada yada. So I think there's going to be a lot more of smaller players that take hold for small and medium-sized businesses, especially. There's going to be a lot more smaller players that become the standards within those ecosystems, and such that those industries don't have a subscription or seats to a Microsoft product or a Google ecosystem. I don't know.
I'm going to take that theory a step further, and this is where I think Mira Murati's headed with Thinking Machines Labs, because there's been a few leaks, and I think what you're going to see is people, small and medium-sized businesses, buying NVIDIA, like just their own chips that can hold a 120B model, and then someone like Thinking Machines Labs coming in and saying, we're going to take an open source model like OpenAI's OS S120, and we're going to fine tune it for your KPIs based on your data, and you're going to have your own AI ecosystem that's run on-prem that you don't have to worry about security for.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be, yes. I think that that's ultimately where it's going to be. But yeah, that's interesting thought, because yeah, as OpenAI even releases the OSS, and I know Facebook Meta has been trying to get their Llama thing going forever. I that is going to happen. What I'm not sure about, though, is in order for individual organizations, especially small to mid-sized, to build those kind of resources, there have to be enough of a willingness. Let's start there, and then I think that there's still going to have to be a little bit more technicians with industry expertise. Right. So, and I think that's one of the gaps now, and that might be filled by, like, say, the Google initiative, where there's the kind of like just training people on AI, and so the education part of understanding how to deploy that within a smaller organization might accelerate. I'm not sure how the gap between the industry or organization expertise into that, how that works. I don't know how you've thought of how we bridge that gap, right? Because if you have a family organization I had a client who was in the construction business, waste management, and they understood their industry. They kind of understood technology, But I'm trying to think in that context, how do they bridge the gap to then do exactly what you're doing? And I'm not sure how that would work, though I think that is where we're going to end up. But
Right now,
I'm
I
not
can see
clear.
that issue. Right, you could bring in an exterior company to fine tune it,
Hmm.
but then you have to worry about going forward. I think as we begin to see recursive self learning and
Mm.
synthesize reinforcement learning that isn't human factor reinforcement learning, that it will be much easier for these models to optimize themselves with a little bit of
Uh,
oversight.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They also
yeah.
become more
That's true.
dangerous at that point. But we're not going to go all Terminator today. But
Well,
there
yeah,
be some
that's a
benefits
great
to that.
point. That's a great point because compared to mobile or social or even just web technologies as those were adopted, those still needed the a human to implement, deploy, and update, and and that's where a lot of these IT services come in, right? IT companies, IT service companies come in. Yeah, but yeah, with AI, once it becomes self learning, uh, over time, and you don't need to train it as much over time, and it adapts. You don't really need that resource because it becomes part organically, artificially organically part of that organization and that industry because it has all the reference points and the context.
Yeah, then it just becomes a matter of like consulting almost becomes how do you help each company figure out what their benchmarks are? And
Hmm.
so, what are we going to reinforce within the learning system? What do we mark as a reinforcement? Like, yes, we want you to do that. No, we don't want you to do that, so
Hmm.
that it knows how to steer itself towards the will of your company or the ethics of your company or
Hmm.
whatever you're looking at. It will be a totally different world. I we're coming up on an hour, and I want to respect your time.
Yeah.
So I have two questions for you
Hmm.
before we go. One is the fun one that I always ask everyone, which is 15 years from now, if one sci-fi movie had it right, which one was it?
Oh, ooh, wow, that's a deep. Ooh. 15 years from now, if one side, I would say, I would, conservatively, I would say her, but that's kind of a no-brainer.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say that because some of the other ones, yeah, some of the other ones, like even Tron, I see where they're going, but I think aesthetically it kind of loses. Like it's a little too sci-fi. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think something like her is more based on real experiences versus a you know
I
I guess
Robot.
cinematic. Yeah,
Blade
yeah, it's
Runner
a
is
little
kind
bit
of
more.
where I go. I think we're headed towards Blade Runner. I could see New York City looking like that in 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of looked like San Francisco. Have you been to San Francisco lately? That's one of
Well,
the reasons a lot of people left San Francisco because it's like yowza. Uh,
I agree. I agree. Okay, last question. So the ChatGPT 5's release has had mixed feelings, and a lot of what we've seen come out of that so far, from what I hear, is that it is more tuned towards people who are going to code and business users, and less sycophantic and less therapeutic. And a lot of people complained about, like masses, have complained
mhm.
about the fact that they don't have their AI buddy in their phone anymore because it's a
Mhm.
little too matter of fact. Like, what does that say about our society, and is that good or bad?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that too, and it's like yikes. People, well, so I think it's I don't know where we end up, but I would say there two main things that are happening. One coming out of COVID, and I spend a lot of time talking about thinking, looking at consumer and trends and such, right? Behaviors and such. So coming out of COVID, I think, and even up till now, the human connection has become more and more top of mind for most people,
Mhm.
and both because of how COVID was, but then also there are a lot more people who don't have anyone to talk to. Like literally, like there are people who go, and I work. Some of my clients are in the senior care industry, and there are a ton of people who do not see anyone else for a week, 2 weeks, and if you talk about in rural areas, like they're not seeing anyone or anyone new for sure. So I think the human connection, there's a big void there, that people started to gravitate, lay people, right? So again, not enterprise,
Right.
lay people started gravitating towards AI because it and social media, right? As a AI as an extension of social media, right? So started gravitating to those kind of technologies because it brought them closer to others, right? You can form a connection. You can find people. Maybe you meet them at the coffee shop or not, or just be online with them. So I think there's that part, and that's where lay people started gravitating towards AI. That contrasts, conflicts with where, and we just talked about where open AI and Google and everything. At the end of the day, their bread and butter is enterprise, right? Like they're not really trying to build large ecosystems of consumer products.
No, they're leaving
Right?
it up
Like
to Zuckerberg, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, they leave it as Zuckerberg. We don't need that. No one needs that. But yeah. So I think it's kind of those two trends. Where it becomes where it goes. I think is what we talked about before, where there's huge opportunities for smaller, nimble organizations, whether they have industry or behavior knowledge, or it could be a random person who runs a meetup somewhere, and they're like, listen, I have the tools now with AI. I could easily spin up a resource that fills this gap because I know people in my community don't meet, right? So I think that we have a more fragmented but very robust middle of resources and technologies and organizations that fill that human connection gap. But then you have this higher end where Microsoft is like, good luck with that. I think even Meta, as much as on paper they're still have a strong foothold, and I think ultimately they pivot as well to enterprise, government contracts and those kinds of things. So it's a huge opportunity, and I think that need is going to permeate because I don't see, especially speaking specifically in the U.S., for instance, I don't see the trend of people being alone and being lonely. I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. I see that
I
getting
don't
bigger and bigger.
disagree at all, and I do think it's the small business industry is going to explode with that. But my fear is that we're going to over anthropomorphize that we too quickly anthropomorphize. Is it great to have that for people who are in isolated areas or who have disabilities? Yes, but does this mean that the 16-year-old boy who never really learned how to talk to girls, once Elon builds a sexy robot, can just
Yeah.
buy one for $15,000, and now she'll never argue with him, and that's his mate for life? Like, I can see some of us headed that way.
Yeah. It's I see. So I think we're at the crossroads, right? Because and I was actually just having the same conversation where I'm older, right? So like for me, like I grew up going outside, right? Like literally going outside and meeting people. Like I learned how to talk to girls. But yeah, the younger kids, they spend more time on social media. They're not in person as much. X, Y, and Z. So we could very well end up where kind of that dystopian context where you get your AI girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and you're good. One shining light that I see, and I'm watching it very closely, is that the data has shown that younger kids, so like say,
Gen Z. We're pushing
Gen
back.
Z, I don't know which one
Bikers
it
and
is. Yeah,
sloppers. That's that
yeah,
word.
Gen Alpha, because my son is 11, so
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
Gen Alpha. Yeah, that's so. I've got
yeah.
a 14.
I actually just saw a trend report the other day that shows that they are actually spending a lot more time, and there's a lot more value for them in things like concerts. Right, so you think of Beyonce and Taylor Swift. One of the main reasons why Beyonce concerts and Taylor Swift concerts have made so much money and have impacted so many different economies is because there are a lot more people who want to go to concerts.
Yeah.
And it's not because of Taylor Swift, right? Like but they go and they share the bracelets, So I think compared to where what I grew up with, which was, on a day-to-day basis, I was interacting with, people, peers. And so I formed relationships day to day.
We
I
still had
think
vacuum seating when I was going to concerts. Do you remember that? Where you just showed up in line and then you all raced for the seats? Yeah, no,
go 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 go.
I'm there with you, man.
Yeah, so I think there I don't know where this is gonna, obviously we're all gonna find out, but I think there is gonna be a push from a financial perspective to fill that vacuum with robots, right? Like to fill that, like let's give people more robots and more artificial relationships, across all social interactions. But I've been seeing more and more of human behavior ending up where they're boosting more of things like they're actually seeking human interactions in different contexts, right? So concerts has been a one key indicator for that. Who's the other
Pop-ups.
one? Yeah, pop-ups, exactly. Pop-ups, a lot of pop-up flea markets, and my niece was just here. She just left. She just turned 16, and she's on TikTok all the time. But what did she want to do for her 16th birthday? She wanted to go to flea markets,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, whoa, here we go. I'm like, okay, let's do this, right? So that's the silver. That's the. I'm always an optimist, so I'm like, oh, that's where I wanted to go. But I agree. I mean, I saw the Tesla robot in a Tesla store around here just the other day. I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
They literally had it in the window, like it's a pair of pants or something.
Uh-huh.
I was like, wait, what? We're like, this is what we're doing now?
Yeah.
But again, so it's that dynamic, and I would love for it to be somewhere in the middle where people, there is an opportunity to leverage technology to fill that connection, but we're not reliant on it. That's not the only option. We'll
That's
see.
the technology definition of being a Gen Xer, right? If you look at
Oh, really? Is it?
how generations relate to technology, it will say that Gen Xers, like you and I, if it makes our life better, we will totally embrace it. But we could give a damn if we don't have it. We're fine without it. So yes, we're hopeful that everybody else adopts that. I think there'll probably be a divide. I think there'll be like your super techie people who are into everything from gaming all day to having a AI wife, and then you'll have a group of people who are camping and doing all kinds of stuff and don't want technology on for more than 10 minutes in their house a day.
Yeah.
It's whether or not you and I will live to see that, I think that's probably where we'll end up in the next 30 years.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
All right, man. I gotta let you go because I know you got work to do. So
Thank you, Jason.
What an awesome.
No, this is good. I know we could be talking all day, but yeah, this is great. Thanks for inviting me on. This is really I love these conversations because again, like I see people, but I don't see people, right? So, and that's why I really value this discussion. I talk to Donna a lot, like this is really valuable for me. So hopefully this is helpful for you as well.
100%, man. I love talking to Donna too, and we will schedule time to talk again, my friend.
All right, man. Thank you. All right, so we'll talk.